Topping today's news, we enter the weekend with another murder as a man is shot dead in the Carmichael Road area. The government and the Bahamas Pharmacy Association reach an agreement. Minister of State for the Public Service responds to Wednesday's protest, and the Prime Minister leaves for the Global Conference on Climate Change in Egypt. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Jarino Saunders. This is your JCN Evening News. It's a pleasure to have you join us. Police are reporting another murder here in the capital, this time in southwest New Providence. Chief Superintendent of Police Michael Johnson, in charge of the Criminal Investigation Department, shared the following details while on the scene this afternoon.
Sometime shortly after 2 p.m. today, persons in this neighborhood heard gunshots. They came out to investigate and met a vehicle in the middle of the street. There was a male in the vehicle who appeared to be suffering from a gunshot injury to the upper body. EMS personnel were called. They checked that body and found no signs of life. Again, the police are appealing to members of this community. If they have seen anything that they believe can assist in this investigation, you can contact the police at 502-999-123. That's at CID or your crime tipsers, or the nearest police station in this area, which is the Carmichael Road Police Station.
The shooting taking place on Palm Breeze Drive, just west of McKinney Avenue off Carmichael Road. Chief Superintendent Johnson was not able to say exactly where the victim was shot in the upper body. He said police were unable to identify the victim while on the scene, but said he appears to be in his mid-20s to early 30s. Police investigations continue into this latest homicide. The government and the pharmaceutical sector have resolved their differences and have reached an agreement on new price control regulation amendments in a win-win, according to Economic Affairs Minister Senator Michael Halkitis. Minister Halkitis announced that instead of there being two different margins for pharmaceutical wholesalers and two for pharmaceutical retailers, there will be a singular margin for wholesale fixed at 20% and a single margin for retail fixed at 40%. Minister Halkitis says they have also taken steps to reduce confusion for pharmacies in relation to categorizing pharmaceutical products.
Our original amendments had margins ranging from, in some cases, 15%, some were 18%, some were 35%, and some were 40%. And the association expressed that it would be easier for them if they had one wholesale margin and one retail margin instead of, two different margins for wholesale and two different margins for retail. They have so many, and I learned a new term, SKUs, SKUs, which means items, individual items. And so it would be easier for them if they had a single margin for wholesale and a single margin for retail. What we did basically split the difference. So we agreed on 20% for wholesale and 40% for retail.
Cancer and kidney medication have been added to the list of price control drugs, with the Bahamas Pharmaceutical Association, or the BPA, and the government also agreeing to a long-term educational process. BPA clinical pharmacist Shagregor McPhee gives further details on the agreed changes.
One of the things that the minister would have impressed upon us is the government's keen desire to ensure that non-communicable diseases are taken care of. The public has access to medication that is a lot more cost-effective. So with that in mind, we looked at the price control amendment list that took care of a lot of the categories that we know are important: your antihypertensives, your diabetic medications, your cardiovascular drugs. But we also said, as pharmacists in the community and looking at where the Bahamas is going, we need to add a little more. And we want to help the government to reach that mandate. One of the things that we know, a lot of Bahamians are not aware of possibly how to take their medication. So not only you couldn't really afford it, you weren't sure, you weren't compliant with it. So the pharmacy community has agreed to work with the government to ensure that going forward, long term, there will be a lot of educational campaigns happening and a lot of education being placed on how we can take better care of ourselves along with our medications. So we are extremely happy about that, and we look forward to working with the government in this initiative.
BPA President Shantia McBride revealed that the price control regulation amendments affect between 60 to 70% of pharmacy products, adding that the pharmacy will be able to sustain itself while the price control regulation amendments remain in effect for the next 3 months. Minister Halkitis noted that the new margins were to come into effect today once the agreement was signed. However, the government has not agreed to a recommendation by the BPA to remove value-added tax from all medications. On Wednesday morning, public service workers gathered in front of the Public Service Union on East Street to protest several outstanding honorariums, promotions, and other long-standing issues. Today, Minister of State for Public Service, Pia Glover-Roll, told JCN News that she understands their frustration, but that promotions will be completed within the month of November.
And of course, our civil servants, our citizens have a democratic right to free speech. I understand their frustrations in the terms of the Ministry of Social Services, and there are other ministries who are still waiting. I understand their angst, but I would like to give a message of hope today. We are working on social services promotions. In fact, we've been working in tandem with the minister and the technical team at the Ministry of Social Services, the Minister Obi Wilchcombe, to get their files commission ready to be able to move on for their promotions.
Minister Glover-Roll went on to say that public service teams are currently working and focused on completing the promotional exercises to ensure that workers get what they deserve. Marking the end of Public Service Week, hundreds of public service workers gathered at Long Wharf this morning for a public service parade organized by Minister of State for the Public Service, Pia Glover-Roll. Minister Glover-Roll shares the importance of today's events.
The public servants are out on the streets today in large numbers, representing their various ministries, departments, and units. Today is a celebration of public service, and I'm happy to be here to support, especially because of the fact that it's been a number of years since they've been able to have a parade. In my time as a public servant, I can appreciate the hard work that public servants do. I can appreciate all of the good things about public servants, but I can also appreciate the sacrifices that they've made. So today we come out to acknowledge them, to recognize them, to celebrate their commitment, their selflessness, their sacrifices. And while there are many here, there's still, of course, many on the job serving the public.
The minister notes that Public Service Week is not restricted only to the capital.
I've seen photos from Abaco, Eleuthera, Grand Bahama, Exuma, where I'll be going tomorrow to continue the celebrations. Tomorrow morning, we have a fun run, walk, and health fair, and I'll be leaving immediately after that to go to Exuma to wrap up Public Service Week. So to public servants, thank you, thank you, thank you, and God bless you. This is definitely a testament to the strength of public servants in the Bahamas.
The Fun Run Walk and health screening will take place on Saturday on the grounds of the Ministry of Health and the Public Service on Meeting Street. They'll begin at 6 a.m. And finally, in this segment, Prime Minister Philip Davis and his delegation leaving for COP27, which kicks off on Sunday, November 6th, and it'll run until the 18th in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. This week's Office of the Prime Minister's press briefing centered around what the government intends to accomplish at the climate change conference.
Prime Minister Davis will focus on the continued push in the Bahamas to fight climate change and update the public on strides made since traveling to COP last year. He'll also stress how, instead of talk, we've been taking action on a number of fronts. Mr. Davis will also make a major announcement as well on the future of climate change and construction in the Bahamas. So that's something we want to stay tuned for. We will provide dates and times and, of course, stream that live so the entire country can be able to watch and tune in as Prime Minister addresses the world from COP27.
Press Secretary Clint Watson revealed that the technical teams are already in Egypt at the conference. The press secretary says it is to be expected for more Bahamians to attend the conference with each passing year.
It's the reason why you're probably going to see every year more and more Bahamians go to COP27 is because people are understanding the relevance of it and the importance of it and how vulnerable we are as a nation to it. And as the private sector understands and see how it impacts what they do, more and more of them are going. More and more companies are sending representatives to make sure that they're at the table, they're at the place where negotiations are taking place to ensure that their future is safeguarded and protected and their voices are heard. So we encourage people from the private sector to get on board in this fight against climate change so that you are aware of how it's impacting you and your careers and your fields and what you need to do, as more and more people are doing. With regard to that.
In an attempt at clarification, Mr. Watson reiterated that 70 Bahamians, made up of mainly private sector business reps, along with some NGOs, will go to COP27, with 10 government officials traveling as part of the Prime Minister's delegation. Represented at COP27 will be technical personnel from government sectors such as the Department of Meteorology, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Environment, the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Agriculture, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
The only other minister traveling to COP27 will be Minister Clay Sweeting, who's going to play a very heavy role in a considerable effort on agriculture and food security at COP27. The following week, when the Prime Minister returns, the Attorney General will be leading the delegation, who was already there. The Attorney General will be leading the negotiations on behalf of the Bahamas, and he will be the only second cabinet minister who will be attending COP along with Prime Minister. There are technical persons from various government agencies and ministries over the 3-week period that will be going various seminars and workshops based on what their expertise are, and those are all civil servants, not politicians.
Prime Minister Davis is set to deliver his speech to the Conference of Party segment of COP27 on Tuesday, November 8th. Dates, times, and live streaming of the Prime Minister's speech will be provided. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.